Lewis from ChristopherHall.com. Welcome to this podcast where today's subject is all about lifestyle diseases. Now, a lifestyle disease, if you've not heard of this term before, is a disease associated with the way a person or group of people live their life. So in today's modern society, where there is an abundance of food available and not necessarily the best food that we could eat, where there is every opportunity to be less active, and where there are a lot of opportunities to be or to have an increased stress level with regards to deadlines at work or expectations about the way we should look, so on and so forth, and that can grow out into the rest of our lives. It can be a bit of a recipe for illness and disease. And all of these, as I mentioned before, all of these lifestyle diseases are associated with the way that people live. So the three things that I've mentioned so far are your activity levels, are your food intake, so the nutrition that you're putting in your body, and the stress levels that you have. So if we can get the right amount of exercise and recovery, if we can get the right nutrition, and if we can manage our stress levels better, then we will experience greater health. Now, some of these illnesses or diseases, as they're called, that I'm about to mention, they are very prevalent in the Western world. So, as a reference point, it's kind of showing us that we haven't quite got our exercise right, we haven't quite got our nutrition right, and we haven't quite got our stress management right. And some of the illnesses or diseases or conditions or whatever you want to call them, one of them is atherosclerosis, which is the thickening of the artery walls via a variety of substances. Then we have heart disease, which include things like heart attacks and coronary artery disease. Then we have strokes, obesity, type 2 diabetes, which is where the insulin producing cells stop working, and then any disease associated with smoking and alcohol abuse. So it's very much the things that we are doing to our body, you could say, are affecting the health that we have. Now, I'm talking very much on a national or a certain to a certain degree international or global level, because there are plenty of people in the world that are plenty healthy, plenty fit, so on and so forth. So from a sort of a global perspective, where these types of illnesses or conditions or diseases are very prevalent, there are plenty of people that don't have them, but they are very prevalent in the way that we live our lives. And a lot of them impact on each other. So atherosclerosis can have an impact on heart attacks, type 2 diabetes can have an impact on obesity, and vice versa. So to some degree, they're very much interlinked in that way. But with regards to what they are associated with the way that people live their life. So we can draw a conclusion that as a society, as a westernized, modernized society, we aren't necessarily doing the best things when it comes to exercise, diet, and managing stress levels. And what this sort of leads me into is I guess the second point, which is that these types of illnesses, conditions, or diseases, I don't really know what to call them. I don't really necessarily like many of the labels that are given to them, so either one of those will be fine. But essentially, these types of lifestyle diseases aren't something that you just get. What they are is something that you do. So it's not one thing. So you don't just not exercise for one day and then you get a heart attack. You don't just eat one bad food and you get obesity. And you don't just become stressed once and you get a stroke, for example. So it's a lot of small things done wrong over a long period of time that kind of go under the radar of you don't feel pain, you don't get necessarily that immediate negative feedback to tell you to stop doing it. So the lifestyle diseases are what I describe as the straw that broke the camel's back. And for people that don't know what that means, it's essentially what I've just described, in that it's a lot of small things done wrong over a long period of time that go under the radar. And what the radar is your immediate feedback of pain, therefore don't do. So if you twist your ankle, you get immediate feedback that your ankle is twisted, it hurts, therefore you stop walking. When it comes to these lifestyle diseases, you don't necessarily get that feedback. So it's very much on a conscious level, it's knowing what brings about atherosclerosis, heart disease, strokes, obesity, type 2 diabetes, diseases associated with smoking and alcohol abuse. So it's very much on that level. It's or sort of on a conscious level. It's knowing what we need to be doing, because as I mentioned, these aren't just something that you get. It's not like a one-off thing. It doesn't just happen. Generally, it's something that you work towards, and as I've just described, the way that we're living our life is working us towards that as a society. And something that the Indian Journal of Medical Research have mentioned is that physical activity and dietary modifications are the cornerstone of management of overweight and obesity. One of those conditions is managed by changing the way that you exercise or how active you are, and the things that you're eating. And I would go to some lengths to say that that's the same for all of them. So if we can improve the way that we eat, if we can improve the exercise and the recovery that we do, then we can start to manage our health a lot better, if that makes sense. And we won't necessarily be working in the direction of a heart attack or atherosclerosis or obesity or so on and so forth. Now, this may, for the cynics among us, it may sort of bring about the argument, well, you've got to die of something, which is absolutely true. That is built into our system. That is something that's going to happen to all of us. But what tends to happen is people with these types of conditions is their quality of life will tend to drop. They might be hindered doing something. I know I work with a lot of people in their older ages, and they tend to be the ones that are a little bit more concerned about their health. And generally, it's what they've done 10, 20, 30 years before that has got them there. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be turned around, because we can certainly improve the exercise, improve the nutrition, and that will start to turn around. Only the other day I was riding on my bike and a guy flagged me down, and he was looking for directions, but I thought I'd ride with him for a bit. He was a 73-year-old guy who'd had a heart attack at 59, a heart attack at 63, and he'd taken up cycling only 3 months prior to me meeting him, and he was told by the doctor that he needs to do something, or obviously something's going to happen to him. So he took up cycling. He started with 1 mile, then he built up to 2 miles, then 3 miles, then 5 miles, then 10 miles. And I won't describe the route that he was taking, because a lot of the people listening won't necessarily know the route that I'm about to or that I could describe. But essentially, he was on about a 30 to 40 mile bike ride, and he was just looking for directions. He was full of beans, and he was up for it, which is great to see. So it's just to say that this is open to the people that want to do it. So a few things that we can do, and I'm going to sort of bring this to a conclusion. Some of the things we can do is start to change habits, which is essentially making a 10% change, so a small change over time. The next thing we can do is keep a journal. Make sure you're recording what you're eating and how you're exercising, as that will impact on your health and your ability to be able to change your health and manage your health. And then the final thing is to get an assessment, which will allow you to know exactly where you are. So make sure you get a health assessment in some way, shape or form to know exactly where you are with your health. So those are the 3 things that I recommend to be able to improve your health, so you don't move towards a lifestyle or move towards these lifestyle diseases. So many thanks for listening. My name is Chris from christopherholt.com.